Good evening. We will now call to order the Chesterfield Township Planning Commission meeting on February 21st, 2023. I will call the roll. Mr. Miller is here. Mr. LaBelle?
Here.
Mr. Demink?
Here.
Mr. Leonard?
Here.
Mr. Renault?
Here.
Mr. Jaworski?
Here.
Mr. Klanowski?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Here.
Mr. Brokart?
Here.
All's here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Approval of the minutes of February 7th. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of February 7th, 2023.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. LaBelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the agenda. I will make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Jaworski. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Rezoning, we have one public hearing tonight. Rezoning number 364, requesting to rezone property located northeast of the intersection of Jefferson Avenue and Cotton Road from C1 local commercial to C3 general commercial and R1C residential one family to MX1 Jefferson mixed use. Address is 47240 Jefferson Avenue. Ms. Osborne?
Thank you.
You want to make a motion to open a public hearing first?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to-
I'll make the motion to open it.
Okay, a support by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Ms. Osborne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to make one clarification. The application tonight is for a two-parcel rezoning. The first parcel is currently C1, the second is C3, and the request is to rezone to MX1, the mixed-use district. The combined site is 0.82 acres, and surrounding the site to the northwest and northeast are parcels zoned C1 local commercial, and to the southwest C3 general commercial, to the southeast because there's two parcels there. One is R1C, and then the other is C3 to the southeast. So what I'll do tonight is go through some criteria for the Planning Commission to consider for a zoning map amendment. And then the Planning Commission, your task tonight is to make a recommendation to the Township Board as to whether or not the rezoning request should be approved. So a key determinant, or one thing you really want to consider, is the master plan. The master plan designates this area as mixed use, which supports the request to be rezoned to the MX1 designation. The surrounding area, except for the parcels behind those directly on Jefferson Avenue, are also planned for mixed use in the master plan. I will note that the master plan also has a focus area called the Jefferson Mixed Use District that specifically calls out the northeast corner of Cotton Road and Jefferson as a key intersection as it has vacant parcels. And that area is expected to have retail, restaurant, residential, and other waterfront-oriented commercial and recreational uses. The second criteria is the impact on public services, utilities, and natural features. The site is already serviced by water and sewer and has improved roads, so we don't expect much more impact there. One of the parcels is vacant, the other has two buildings already, and there's no real concern for the natural features as neither parcel has much in the way of natural features that we look at. The very southeast side of the south parcel of this area has borders a special flood hazard area. The third consideration would be whether or not the applicant provided evidence that the property cannot be developed or used as zoned. The applicant didn't provide that evidence that the property couldn't be zoned under C1 and C3 standards. Moving on to consideration 4, the proposed zoning district is compatible with the surrounding uses. Again, to the northwest, the land is vacant, but it could have uses that are permitted in C1, which are similar to those that are allowed in the mixed-use district. The parcels surrounding to the northeast, southeast, and southwest have single-family residential uses, which are also permitted in the mixed-use district. The proposed use is a microbrewery, so it may generate more traffic than the residential uses that are currently there. Consideration number 5 is additional burden on thoroughfares. The master plan classifies Jefferson Avenue in this area as a minor arterial. We would need a full traffic study to understand the full impacts of this rezoning. The 6th criteria is whether or not other land is currently available for this use. The applicant has not provided evidence that there are not other parcels that are currently zoned C1 or C3 that are available for the proposed use. However, microbreweries are not allowed in C1 or C3, but they are allowed in the mixed-use district. Criteria 7, or consideration 7, is whether or not it will be able to meet the MX1 district standards. We don't have a site plan in front of us, but it appears that the 2 lots combined would be able to meet the dimensional standards outlined for that district. The 8th consideration is looking at whether or not rezoning is the best way to address this use being added to the community, and rezoning would be the best way to do that since the use fits nicely with what the MX1 district has been imagined to be in the master plan. The 9th consideration is whether or not the property has any development since the master plan, and it has not. And item 10 on the last pages of my review here just reiterates that the master plan, or that the request is consistent with the master plan, that if it is rezoned, the use that's being proposed is similar to those of the surrounding C1 districts and generally less intense than what could be there in the C3 district. And the Planning Commission should consider whether a special benefit would be granted to the property owner if this were rezoned. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Francis Smith. I'm the one currently requesting the rezoning. I've been in front of the board before when you first started the mixed-use zone up the Jefferson corridor. I came here, I was looking at several other buildings in the area. One was at Sugarbush in Jefferson, the old Huntington Bank. Another one was the power washer building at 21 in Jefferson, and there were several others that I tried to obtain. Recently, this property came up for lease or sale. I spoke with the owner, and luckily he was willing to enter into a lease with me. At that time, I started to investigate the use of that being for my microbrewery. My background, I've been brewing for over 40 years, never as a commercial brewer, always as a home brewer. I'm retired from law enforcement. I did 25 years in the city of Warren as a law enforcement officer. Looking at that property, it has a parking lot that I think will accommodate the building. At this time inside, there's only approximately 1,100 square feet of usable area because of the cooler, because of where the brew equipment is going to go, where the kitchen area is, and the office. It claims that it's 5,000 square feet in there, but truly after you put a bar and everything in there, there's going to be approximately 1,200 square feet. Per the zoning request, I would like to put in an outside patio in the back for outdoor seating, which will be for a beer garden, and it's going to be a small area that's going to sit right up next to the building. If you look in the backyards as it sits now, there is privacy fencing all the way around. I'm currently working on repairing the privacy fences that aren't in place at this time, and I'm going to try to get it to where it's as enclosed as possible. Because Chesterfield has a noise ordinance that says 11 o'clock, we're going to be shutting down the outdoor area well before 11 o'clock. There's never been any kind of problem with police at that location, and I don't intend on it being a place. I think initially the parking that's there will be enough to get the building started. I've already looked into the property across the street and just south, the other commercial property, to try to find out if it expands and gets larger and I need additional parking, where I could look. One of those places would be the property immediately south is a commercial property right now that was just purchased, and the owner is looking to turn around and sell it, and I'm trying to get a hold of him to make some terms with him so that I can look ahead in case parking does become an issue. I want to have a resolution for that problem. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll let the general public come up now, and the rules for the general public is they have 3 minutes to speak. So anybody that would like to speak has 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Marianne Van Coor. Where they're proposing this is right in my backyard, right behind me. No. No, I don't think so. There's children. We got 16 bars within a 3-mile radius. There are 16 bars now. We don't need another one. Where the condos are right now used to be a bar, which we had problems. People parking on Jefferson, on Forbes, all in the residential area. Cops were there all the time. They finally closed it down, and that was back in the 90s. There's children all around. There's a nursery school right across the street. No, there's too many bars around now, and I'm not having that in my backyard. No.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Ken.
So we have the record of it.
My name's Ken Satchfield. I live on Fortin Street, somewhat behind where this proposed rezoning is. You mentioned you consider the harmony of the surrounding area, and you mentioned a whole bunch of different places, but I don't know if you're tracking that there's a daycare center that's, according to Google Maps, 200 feet from where this proposed brewery would be. There's also a private street called Fortin, which I don't know if you can go back to the map that you had up, but so the property that's being requested for rezoning, you had a black highlight around it earlier, but it's that pink one that you're on right now. It's the yellow one that's behind it, which is R1C, and then it's the red one just to the I think just above it, to the right one. There you go. So those are the three. And that yellow one, currently zoned as R1C residential single-family home, touches a private road called Fortin Street. I checked with the township many times about this particular proposal, and they had mentioned once all three of those are rezoned as MX1, that the owner could do pretty much whatever he wanted to with those pieces of land. He could put a parking lot back there. He could extend the patio all the way to Fortin Street. Once it's rezoned to MX1, which allows for the brewery to expand. He's already acknowledged that there's a parking issue that he foresees. He talks about possibly acquiring the property across the street. I don't know if you've ever driven or tried to cross the street at Jefferson at that area. That's a joke. There will be no one who parks across the street and tries to cross a 45-mile-per-hour road that most people do 50, 55 down. They're going to be parking, or he may expand the parking into what that R1C area is right now, or people may be parking on Fortin Street. And I don't know if any of you folks have been to Fortin Street, but I encourage you to please go over there. You talked about the master plan marking all of those properties to the north of Fortin as potential MX1 uses, which I have to laugh at because living on the street, I mean, it's like an up north town over there, little quiet up north road. It's a dirt road. It's impassable most of the time, which is why we have so many families, and they walk up and down the street. Kids walk up and down the street unattended. People ride their bikes, walk their dogs. My son's been in his Power Wheels driving down the road, and now there's a proposal to put alcohol-serving business touching that road, where someday people may be parking on our street, accessing our street from his lot, and that is not in harmony. Can somebody else come up and defer time to me by chance? Come up and defer time to me.
My name is Sandra Satchfield. Please do not turn our tranquil street into a commercial business alley. Thank you, I defer my time.
Thank you. I'm back. So when she deferred the rest of her time to me. Okay, well. Okay, yeah, if you can point out the other bars around the area where it's surrounded.
I'm Tom Curtis. The place is right behind me. My biggest question is, hey, how you doing, buddy? Is Fortin Street, will they be allowed to do anything on there? Will they put access onto our street? Nobody's really looked at that and given us a straight answer.
Sir, he has the floor.
Well,
That's the way that this meeting works. And the chairman will tell you, you had your chance to speak. You can't speak from the floor. You can only speak from the podium. I'm sorry.
And I was always told that my lot line goes across the street and ends there. Is that how this works, or, you know what I mean? I'm just wondering if they can have a,
We don't answer any questions, so we'll take it under advisement, and that'll be part of our,
so you guys don't know if they can come down our street and pull into the bar?
I doubt if they would, but
Why would you not know this? No offense, but
There's no site plan.
there's no what?
Mr. Palin?
Let him talk.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. So some of the questions, they're not going to have a back and forth at the podium right now. Some of the questions, if they want to answer towards the end, they can.
When do we find
A lot
this-
of the questions that you're asking are dependent on a site plan. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is just for the rezoning request, so they're considering all items that would fall under that zoning. Anything site plan specific has not been applied for at this point, so it's all speculative. All of that would have to be addressed in the future.
Sir, you have to address us. You can't address the applicant.
Sorry, you guys aren't answering nothing.
No,
Okay. I guess
we're
I'm
taking
done.
notes. The
Well,
board
I-
takes notes.
I'm a taxpayer in that neighborhood, and I don't want to bar in my neighborhood.
Anybody else?
Sign in? Okay. You already signed me. Hi, my name's Glenn Vancor. I live right behind the, my yard butts up right to where they want to put that, the bar. The back part is the residential area they wanted to change, I think. And, I don't want a bar there because it's pretty quiet, pretty nice. And as the gentleman acknowledged, they don't know what the parking is going to be in the future. I see them using that back part for parking, which butts up right against my backyard. And I want peace and quiet when I go home at night. I'm going to be retiring soon. I had planned a lot of things to do in the backyard. I think that's going to interrupt it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Paul, let me just address everything. Folks, all these gentlemen up here are residents, just like you. I'm the only elected person. I'm the only one that's elected by you. I'm the only elected official. I'm the liaison from the township board to here. Everyone up here, all these gentlemen are residents like you. They were appointed to this board. So just so you know, they are not elected people. I'm the only one that's elected, and that's how the forum works, and that's how the board rules work. Okay? So we're taking all the information. They will be asking questions of the applicant. I very doubt it that this will be voted on tonight. Let the process take place, sir. You'll see, okay? Everybody gets their chance.
Do I have the board? Hello, my name is Mike Wakely. I live at 47248 Fortin, which is directly behind the new proposed establishment. I can answer Mr. Curtis's question. Our plot lap and my property line extends exactly up to the very edge of the southeast corner of the proposed new building. I do not approve of this for several reasons, one being privacy, intrusion of outsiders into the neighborhood, safety, anytime alcohol is concerned, people don't use the best knowledge, noise, parking and traffic. Even our own Ms. Osborne said that she was unsure if the traffic would be acceptable of this organization, and the proposed owner that said that he thought the parking lot might be large enough. Not a definite yes or no in my answer. Also, the trash and whatever comes from people as they go into and from an establishment. So I'm opposed into this for the matter of the reasons that I just stated. And thank you for allowing me to address the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, I signed it.
All right, my name's Ken Hasnauer. We're at 47234 Fortin. This is directly across the road from my house. And you will not find a more pro-business man than I am. But this is exactly why we have zoning laws. And I find the proposal actually audacious. It's a wonderful neighborhood. I've been there 30 years. We know each other. If there's ever an issue, we talk amongst each other. We never have problems that are insurmountable. I see nothing but problems and issues with this whole thing. I'm actually surprised at the proposal. It's that bad. I really don't know legally what our options are going to be, but I can tell you that if this ever, we're going to go to the next step. We can't accept this. 30 years of serenity, and these people want to come in and just take that for their greed and personal gain. It's ours. We were there, and they just want to take it. I'm opposed.
Next.
Hi, I'm Eric Dufresne. I live on 47292 Fortin. Our community is a very quiet community. There are a lot of children that live there. I have 3 young children, and I have a major concern with the drinking establishment right next to my children and neighbors' children. And another issue, if they're going to have a parking issue potentially, there are no sidewalks, either on Jefferson or on Fortin Road. So these kids are playing in the road, and now we're going to add potential traffic from the bar, parking potentially on Fortin Road from this establishment. Maybe some of them are drunk, and I'm going to have my children there. That's, a big concern with no sidewalks. But, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Thomas Curtis. I'm his son. I grew up there. I'm one of the very children that grew up on that street, and I can tell you 100% it's no place for a bar. I grew up playing street hockey on those streets, and I would rollerblade. I had 3 buddies down the road that we would walk from house to house and play, and it's one of those kids growing up on that street. I promise you, you don't want a bar there. All it is bad news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Hasenauer. I live at 47234 Fortin. We live right behind where the party store is right now. We actually put up arborvitaes because the back of it is atrocious. And we had issues with kids going in and out of there, and they were getting hurt. So that is an issue. And being that they're going to butt up, or that parking lot will butt up to where our street is, that is an issue. Ms. Osborne had stated earlier that it's part of the waterfront or water access. I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly what she said. However, it's not waterfront, but we do have access on Cotton Road, and we patrol that and make sure that our kids are safe and our neighbors are safe. And if we have a bar there, there is no guarantee that people will not be walking up and down that access. It's literally 100 feet from the back of where that bar would be. So that is concerning. And then just again, we have a very tight-knit neighborhood. Everybody is out in the street. I do think it's a safety issue, and I hope that our voices are being heard tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else? She wasn't up yet. It was her husband.
I want to go back to the harmony with the surrounding area. The other businesses serving alcohol. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sandra Satchfield. The other businesses serving alcohol east of 94 and south of 23 Mile Road are Sugarbush Tavern. It's on a huge main road, 4 lanes, 21 Mile Road. There's no private street, not surrounded by houses, and CJ Brown's. It's on Jefferson, but it's surrounded by boatyards. No private street, no houses surrounding it. There's plenty of places for businesses that want to serve alcohol. 23 and Gratiot area, 21 Mile Road, places surrounded by marinas and boatyards, not locations surrounded by families, a daycare, and a private drive. Please don't approve this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Schaefer. I live on Fortin Street, 47540. I'm mostly towards the north end. I've lived there 48 years. When I moved in there, there was a bar right next door to me. And it started out as a family neighborhood bar. It was called Lou's Lounge. People came and went. They had their fish dinners on Friday night. It was very quiet. Over the years, that bar changed hands 5 times before it was finally sold, which was a blessing to us, and they ended up building condos there and made it much more private than what it was before that. We do not need another bar on Fortin Street. That's the last thing we need for the neighbors and for myself. I'd appreciate it very much if you turn this down. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Nancy Curtis. I live at 47224 Fortin Street. Just like all of my neighbors have said, we have been there 30-plus years. It is a residential area. It is no place for a bar at this point. I have raised my children there. I plan to have some grandchildren there, and I don't think it's a place for us to have a bar. I'm concerned about noise. I'm concerned about smell from a microbrewery. I'm concerned about lighting, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot more LED lighting that's going to be shining right into my home. I back right up to this. I don't approve of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's John Anderson. I live on 29787 Cotton Road, right next to the access area that was talked about today, and it's already a nuisance with a lot of traffic going out that way. Adding a bar to this, I'm definitely opposed to. And my main concern really is, I don't understand all the terminology you guys use. MTX zoning, in my mind, there's either business or residential. And if we're going to approve turning a residential into a business, it's right on a family, a street full of family with kids biking and the like. My grandsons go down there. I'm definitely opposed to it, 100%. Now, I think if you want to make an amendment to not allow that residential portion, it's at least something to consider. But turning a residential into a business district that actually has a bar in it, that's making like 5 steps in the wrong direction in my mind. So I'm opposed to it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody else wants to speak? I'll bring it back to the applicant to see if he wants to answer any of the questions.
Sure. I appreciate these people, I really do, and I understand their concerns, but a lot of it is just assumptions at this point. I don't feel that we're gonna be accessing their street for parking. There's a thoroughfare right through the property. If we need to add parking anywhere, it's not gonna affect the street in any way, shape, or form. As far as lighting, as she stated, there's arborvitae's up all around the building except on the south side. And at this point, I'm trying to create a barrier with privacy fencing and other vegetation to create any kind of barriers to accommodate the residents in the area. Again, I don't feel that the traffic is gonna be any more increased than it currently is with the business sitting there. Our business hours are very short. As far as the daycare center, we're not gonna open till 11 or noon every day because of just the business that we're in. And again, we shut down by 11 or 12 at night. And so as far as noise, should be no noise. There's no entertainment outside. There'll be a patio where people can sit and have a drink and talk with their friends. There's not gonna be any entertainment out there. Again, most would be a beanbag toss game. We're not gonna have outside entertainment. As far as lighting, there'll be lighting over the patio, obviously, so people can see where they're walking, but I'm not lighting up the entire backyard to where it's gonna look like a landing strip. It's still gonna maintain with that arborvitae all the way around, seclusion in that back area. And again, if the parking ever does need to be expanded, and again, it would be a good thing for me to be concerned with. I don't know if we'll get there. A lot of microbreweries, 90% of them don't make it past their first year. So I'm hoping not to be one of those statistics, but my first year, I don't know what to expect. My seating is going to be limited because of the size of the building, and there's not gonna be an overflow of traffic because my occupancy is gonna be limited to that parking, so there's not gonna be a big influx of traffic and people driving around there because the building cannot accommodate that many people. Again, it's 1,200 square feet inside where I can have seating with tables and chairs. That's gonna accommodate maybe a 50-person seating capacity, and it's not gonna probably exceed that at any given time because it's gonna be a rotating thing. And again, with the limited hours, there's not gonna be very much traffic, a consolidation of traffic, and I have no plans of accessing the backyard through that back area off their street because it doesn't make it conducive for me. For me, it would be easier to come through my lot into that back parking area if I need to go there. I'm hoping not to use that back lot for parking. I'm hoping to find parking elsewhere if it becomes an issue. It may never become an issue. But with the limited seating capacity, that parking lot may be able to accommodate that business, and it will not be an issue.
Thank you. No more discussion.
It's not a discussion, it's just a question.
The answer, we already had the public comments. I'll bring it back to the township. Mr. Palin?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to rehash a couple of points here. Number one, the process. So where we're at right now, the applicant has applied for the rezoning.
Mr. Smith?
This is the public hearing phase, so the planning commission holds the public hearing, at which point they will make a recommendation that then goes to the township board, and the township board has the final approval. As I stated before, The rezoning process is for the zoning district itself, which is the MX1, which is the term that was being thrown around, which is a zoning district, which is the Jefferson Mixed Use District. The Planning Commission has, you know, and the board has the responsibility to look at that district as a whole and not just the use that the applicant is proposing. They have to consider all of those things, or all those uses in that district. So even if the applicant gets up and says that certain things will or won't happen, that's not said and done until a site plan phase. So that's just all stuff that the Planning Commission and the public needs to keep in mind. And another thing that for the public that probably some of you weren't there when the workshops were being done, and as a reminder to the Planning Commission, when we went through the master plan process and the drafting of the MX1 district, you know, we looked at this Jefferson area, and that was kind of the problem that we had, is we have residential, we have commercial, we have local commercial, we have general commercial. So it's important to note when we go back to the uses as a whole, a lot of the uses that are permitted in the MX1 district are also permitted in the C1, and probably all of them permitted in the C3 district, which is currently zoned. The difference is those standards, and that's the problem we ran into in this area, is how do we allow uses in this area that can be compatible with the residential? So the idea behind this focus area, the master plan, and this zoning district was to create uses and standards that are in harmony with each other. So while a lot of the points raised are valid, it's just important to remember that this district was created for a reason, and I think the public too will get a lot of value out of reading through that section in the master plan and looking at the permitted and special land uses that are outlined in the C1, C3, and MX1 district. So,
Thank you. Mr. Demink?
Neighboring communities, who's got an M1 district nearby?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
In a neighboring community, who would have like a mixed zoning case, so these people at least can, you know, look at it?
I'm pretty sure like Royal Oak, Ferndale would, it's becoming quite popular, or it's been in practice for quite a while. I would say those would probably be the most common, you know, like, or most well-known kind of mixed-use areas.
Is that what that zoning is on Big Beaver by Rochester Road, where you got the restaurants and
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I'm not as familiar with that area, but I don't believe that would be the case.
I think in St. Clair Shores, they might have 4 or 5 microbreweries on Jefferson Avenue. I know there's one on 10 Mile Little Mac, and that place always seems to have a lot of nice crowds in it. So if you want to check one out, there's one 10 Mile Little Mac, Baffin Brewery. So, but I'll bring it back to the board for questions. Mr. Demink?
there's a lot of questions, and the residents have a lot of, understand where you're coming from. I think this is gonna be vetted by the members of this planning commission. Won't be voted on tonight. I can almost assure you of that. Back in the old days, that gentleman there who said he's been around 40-some years, I've been around a long time too. Do you remember when the Blue Whale was there in Jukes? Okay, there was a bar there where the sign for Lakeville Market was back in the day, in my younger days. There was a bar there. Okay, you're an old timer. It was Jukes, then it was Blue Whale, and the Blue Whale burned, and then Juke built Sugarbush, which was offshore 21, and it became that. So there was a bar there back in the days, and I'm talking 70s, okay? Showing my age, but just throw that. But, you know, I think, yeah, 60s, Jukes was. But, you know, there's a lot of information that I think I need to look at on this from my point. And I'm sure the rest of my fellow members up here will have some questions for the applicant or be going over stuff. So just to let you know that, okay, folks? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you on your things, but we have a procedure just like we do at the board meeting, how things go. So just to give everybody a fair chance.
That's a good idea.
We've got one in the back. That's how we keep track of it. Right. I understand, sir. No problem, sir. I understand. I'll mention that to my fellow board members.
And when
Mr. Brokart?
I love it when people come up and they share their feelings, they share their concerns. My wife and I moved into Chesterfield about 2.5 years ago. We love this township. I love the people here. And seeing you at these meetings makes me feel really, really good. I think the key word that I heard tonight was harmony. And it's really hard to understand what we're even talking about without a site plan. People have concerns about lighting and noise and what's it gonna look like, and I get it. And growing up and having kids up and down a street, yeah, you want a safe street. You deserve a safe street. But we have to figure out what all that looks like. And so I wanna say thank you for coming out. And someone asked, I hope we're being listened to. You are being listened to. We're taking notes and we hear you. That's all I have.
No?
Yeah, I actually have a question for Ms. Osborne. Currently, the two parcels, if I understand it correctly, are zone C1 and C3.
That's correct.
What are the permitted uses in those zones as it sits right now?
So it's lengthy, but I can tell you the permitted uses in C1 are things, and this is, I'll just give you the permitted list to keep it short. Professional offices, medical uses, you can have residential, publicly owned buildings, public utility offices, local convenience retail establishments, and then accessory uses. In C3, what's permitted, that is, again, professional and medical offices, residential, local retail and service establishments, community and regional retail service establishments, so bigger stores, clothing retail, coin-operated service machine operations, scales, shoe shine, lockers, and blood pressure, membership organizations, automotive dealers, hotels and motels, mortuaries, public utility buildings, telephone exchange buildings, gas regulator stations, transformer stations and substations, accessory structures, temporary buildings, garment pressing, and agents for laundries and dry cleaners, coin-operated laundries and dry cleaning establishments, other laundry and garment services, miscellaneous personal services, rental of tools and household goods, appliance repair, museums and art galleries, automotive rental and leasing, dance studios, schools and halls, theatrical producers, physical fitness facilities, vet offices and clinics, and places of worship and accessory buildings and uses. I will say that the special land uses are even more varied than that, and if you'd like, I can go through those.
Nope, that was,
Okay.
that's, oh, thank you. That covers most of my question right there. So if we do nothing, the applicant, if he wanted to, could build any of these there, or?
The permitted uses would be allowable, yes.
Okay, and it is currently zoned at C1 and C3, correct?
There are two parcels, one is C1, one is C3.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Carr?
I think the applicant covered most of my questions. I mean, looking at the, so there was a reason why we made this mixed use during the master planning, because again, the Jefferson corridor, it's a very difficult corridor to really identify because there is a whole bunch of mixed uses, and so there's residents, but then you got a really bit of everything on Jefferson. So there was a reason why it's mixed use. I do agree that on the, I guess you would say the east side where it borders Fortin, that is more on the residential side, but I think the applicant addressed that, and I think that's something that we can cover if it does go through in the site plan approval phase. But I am very comfortable with it bordering Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson, that is what we're trying to do as a township. In that corner, we are trying to do mixed use. You have gas stations, you have party stores, you have businesses in that corner at that intersection. I understand that it's uncomfortable bordering Fortin, and again, that's things we can address in the site plan if it does go further, but from it bordering Jefferson, I have no issue with it.
Thank you. Mr. Jaworski?
Yeah, no, first and foremost, I mean, everyone coming together to bring this community together. I mean, we need businesses that are going to come here and work with us. We need businesses to come here that's gonna bring future generations. The whole master plan, when we heard from everyone in the community, was we just needed more stuff here, sidewalks, activities, things to bring people together. Right now, the way I'm looking at it, the only contention is that little piece of property that's really bordering, that's dipping into the neighborhood. And other than that, if that bordering part of the neighborhood, the non-pink spot, which goes along to the yellow, was not an issue, would you still build there? Would you still want that as a brewery?
For me, yeah, I don't plan on developing that back part of the property.
Sir, you gotta go to the podium and speak, but hold on a minute.
As I stated before, I'm building the beer garden right up against the building. The back part of that lot is gonna stay just the way it is. I have no plans to do anything with it at this time. And when I do submit a site plan, you'll see that. Basically, everything is right around the building itself. So when you get 150 feet back along their fence line and where the arborvitaes are, that's going to stay just the way it is. I have no plans on putting any kind of structures back there, patios, nothing back there as it sits today. It works well for my use just to have grass back there. So if somebody wants to come in with their dog or whatever while they're out walking on the paths, then they can come in and have a grassy area. I don't plan on putting anything in that back part. So yes, I would still take that piece of property even though that back parcel is considered residential.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sorry.
can I just provide just a little bit of clarity? I think there was some confusion on, the limits of the property and exactly what's being requested. So if you look up on the screen, it's kind of hard to see up there, but I'll try and zoom in and show this the best that I can. So this L-shaped here is all of the property. Okay?
Correct.
So when you look at the zoning map, you can see that the portion that fronts on Jefferson is C1 local commercial. The piece that's with the parking is the C3 general commercial, and then it's split zoning in the back for residential. So there are 3 different zonings in play here, all requesting to go to the MX1 based on the application submitted by the applicant. So again, what's currently being requested is a rezoning of the entirety of the property. So I'm not to say that, Mr. Smith is not accurate, but if the property were to be rezoned and he doesn't develop it, or he changes his mind, or someone else develops it, there's nothing that in stone that keeps that property as residential. It would be the new zoning district as currently applied for.
Okay, so that's my point.
Well, as I see it, I kind of agree with Brian. He kind of touched on my thoughts a little bit. You have C1, C3, and residential. You have a mixed use in that parcel, in effect. Now, does a brewery fit in this? I don't know. We'll have to see a site plan or, make that decision when it comes up. But it does appear to be a mixed use. It is master planned as mixed use. And that's my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard?
Yeah, I have a question. What I got out of the audience participation was that residential lot in the back more than anything. So this rezoning request, can it be modified? Can that back lot be left alone as residential? And then just rezone the two, the
The
C1 and the C3?
applicant could modify their application. The planning commission can't put conditions, or the board can't put conditions on a rezoning unless it's conditions provided by the applicant.
So the applicant.
I don't know if you want to expand on that any more than.
No, I agree. The applicant's made a decision that he wants a rezoning of the entire 2 parcels that are, as I understand it, I'm reading the planner's report. It says there's 2 parcels, one C1, C3, but you're saying the C1 is split. Part of the C1 towards the Fortin Street is residential. The applicant is asking that the entire 2 parcels, although the one is split zoned, it all be rezoned to MX. That's his choice. If he wants to continue to play that through, then you would make a decision up or down on that. If the applicant decides that he wants to modify his application and remove the split zoning on the C1 piece, he could do that, but now's the time to do it. But he's not required to.
No, I know, but the reason I ask is before this meeting tonight, there was no feedback from the residents, and it all came out tonight, so the petitioner, I guess, has some things to take in himself, and that's his decision. I just didn't know if it had to all be lumped in for any reason other than his request. So, pretty much everything else has been discussed. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. LaBelle?
I don't have any comments, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I don't have any questions. I just have a comment. I am in agreement with the, as Mr. Carr spoke, of our future development of Jefferson. I'm excited about it. You know, when we go to St. Clair Shores, we have the nautical mile. Why can't we have that here in Chesterfield Township? Restaurants, places for people to gather, places to walk. But as part of my statement also, and echoing what Carl Leonard just said, we have to do something with that with the back side of that property. As it's currently zoned, in essence, there's only 2 pieces of property, but there's 3 zonings. If we could clean that up, if we can clarify that, I think that we have an opportunity to make something work here. Thank you.
Thank you. The only question I have, Jonathan, can you serve food at a brewery? Or it's all by food trucks, aren't they?
I don't believe the ordinance distinguishes that. I mean, both in the MX1, both the microbrewery and eating and drinking establishments are permitted. So as long as they both fell within those requirements.
Okay.
One more quick thing, because I just now occurred to me what happened while there was some confusion, and I want to make sure that Stephanie doesn't feel like they did something wrong. But what happened here is when this was originally applied for, it was multiple parcels, and I believe Mr. Smith, in the process, at the township's recommendation, combined the parcels. So I think that's creating a little bit of confusion. So it is now currently 1 parcel that process has been handled by the assessing department, but that's why there's the split zoning and the confusion with reviews. But so just to clarify that.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
So what Jonathan just said is, it's 1 parcel. Is there 1 parcel ID? There's 3 parcel IDs, right?
No, it's currently just split zoning. It was originally two parcels with 3 zonings, and now it's 1 parcel with 3 zonings.
So if Mr. Smith decided to, if he changes his mind about the rezoning, could that back parcel be split away for residential?
In theory, yes. It would have to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance and the Land Division Act, but in theory, it could be.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody else has anything else? If not, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing. We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Renault. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Our normal procedure is to wait 2 weeks. So I think that's what we're going to do. I will poll the commission to see if they want to vote on it tonight, but chances are it'll be at our next meeting. So, Mr. Miller, wait 2 weeks. Mr. LaBelle?
Wait 2 weeks.
Mr. Demink?
Wait 2 weeks.
Mr. Leonard?
Wait 2 weeks.
Mr. Renault?
Wait 2 weeks.
Mr. Jaworski?
Wait 2 weeks.
Mr. Klinowski?
Wait 2 weeks.
Mr. Carr?
2 weeks.
Mr. Brokart?
Wait 2 weeks.
So we'll have our decision in 2 weeks. Our next meeting is March the 7th?
March 7th. Again,
March
that's going to
7th.
be a recommendation to the township board as
Yes.
well. So there's still one more step regardless of the planning commission's recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. Comments from the floor by the commission on non-agenda items? Mr. LaBelle?
I'm looking for volunteers for pre-planning. Mr. Leonard
And Mr. Renault? Receive and file all comments. Number 10 is committee reports, ordinance amendments, board liaison reports, reviews, discussions, members of the commission, consultants, and township employees? Anybody have anything? Next is adjournment. I will make a motion. It's not on here how that works. I think it's
Okay.
number 10, right?
I just want, yeah, we gotta clean that up. I just want to thank everybody for coming. Hope you understand what we're doing. We're gonna sit on it for 2 weeks. They're gonna look at it, come up with a decision, hopefully in 2 weeks, whether the applicant contacts planning. He has the right to do that. But everybody heard your comments, so you know, you were not ignored. We fully understood, okay? So, you know, a lot of comments were made. I understand we are being residential. When this whole commission redid this master plan to clean Chesterfield up, now, there's some longtime residents here, Ms. Hartman's here, that gentleman, you know. We would love to see Jefferson look like the shores. And I'm sure some of you think Jefferson doesn't look too well in some areas from Rosso Highway going north. Like I said, I've lived out here 65 years, so I know Jefferson like the back of my hand. They did this rezoning, want to bring it up to par, you know, make it nicer and things like that, sidewalks. You know, we've been putting more sidewalks in. We're going to do more with the bike path and things like that. So this whole rezoning thing took a lot of time with this board. It started on the prior planning board, which I wasn't on. But there's just things we have to work on and just trying to move Chesterfield forward rather than back to the old days. Okay. The other thing I just want to say is to the board members, there was a township board meeting last Tuesday. Came up with rezoning of the gas station and some other issues. I just want to say I appreciate this planning commission, and I stated it last week, Tuesday, at the board meeting. There's a wide diversity of people up here. We have someone electrical contractor, financial, engineer, architect, landscaper, farmer. Everybody does something different. And there was comments made that I did not like, and those were the comments I stated. You guys do a great job. I took heat from an individual because of the way I appear on this board. I basically let you guys make your decision. I'll have my opinion, but you can outvote me at any time. But I appreciate it, and I look at it. You know, I listen to the residents, but so do you. You guys are residents. That's why I told these folks at the beginning of this. They're residents just like you. I'm the elected person, so I take the heat, and I'm fine. That's what I signed up for. You know, I've been doing this 18 years in politics, and, you know, I got 2 more years to go. But comments that were made last Tuesday, I did not feel were right, and I advise all the members on this board to go back and watch the meeting and see what was said, and you hear it directly. But I just want you guys to know that. But I appreciate everything you do, and so do other board members. But things got a little testy last week, Tuesday. Thank you.
I'm okay, thank you.
Mr. Renault? I'm good, thank you. Mr. Carr? I'm good. Mr. Jaworski? Good. Mr. Klinowski? Nothing. Mr. Leonard?
I'm all set, thank you.
Mr. LaBelle?
No, thank you.
And I have nothing, so with that.
Non-agenda item, sir. That's the catch-all.
Ken Satchfield, my question is for that next meeting next week. Will there be,
2 weeks.
or 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
An opportunity for public comments again, or is it no talking?
Public hearing is closed, so there will be no, we'll just make a decision and then we make a recommendation to the township board. Do they have a public hearing there or no?
It's not a public hearing, but they will take public comments on all agenda items.
Okay, so we can,
At the township board meeting.
okay.
And you're welcome to send emails to the board or to myself.
Okay,
And
is
then
there,
I can always forward them, or you can send them to Jonathan at planning.
Okay.
And then he forwards them all us, or you can send them to me at my email to township, but Jonathan and I both have township emails.
okay, can
So,
I
you know,
see
you
afterwards?
guys have another, you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, just so you guys know. We're not shutting anybody down, but, you know, today of electronic information and transfer. You can send email to Jonathan or me, and then we forward it to the rest of the board members.
Okay, nothing else? If not, I'll make a motion to adjourn. We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Renault. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.